Hey guys, it's Jani. Welcome to my channel. I changed the setup from last time because up here is where my books are, and I think it's just much prettier. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Oh, these lights should be on, but I think they ran out of battery, so if they turn off in the middle of this video, that's what's up. So, the unpopular book opinions tag is a tag that everyone on BookTube did, probably in like 2015 to 2016. So naturally, I'm like 2-3 years late to everything. So, I'm going to be doing it now because I'm new to BookTube, and yeah. One is, what is a popular book or series that you didn't like? And so, maybe I just didn't give this a chance, and maybe it just caught me at a bad time, but I'm going to say the Percy Jackson series. But I watched the first movie, and so then I was like, oh, this is interesting, so I'm going to give it a chance. And so then I read the first book, and I bought the next 4. I don't know how long this series is, but I bought a good chunk of the series, and then ended up not reading them. Just got through the first one, and then I just couldn't get through the second, and then books 3, 4, 5 went to dust, and I don't know who I gave it to. Percy Jackson is one of those series that people love because they loved when they were in elementary school. And because I watched this after the movie came out, I was past the age that a lot of people had read the books, and I had read a lot more books I had read books that were just a lot more advanced in terms of writing style and plot and complexity and stuff like that than Percy Jackson. So going to read it past the time of its general demographic, just felt like I was regressing and I didn't like it. So that's just me. Next, what is a popular book or series that everyone seems to hate that you love? And I don't think anyone has said this, or I haven't watched any one of these videos where someone said this, but I'm going to say it, and I'm going to give my justification. So my answer is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So disclaimer, when I first read this book came out summer of my sophomore year. So summer before sophomore year, I think that was 2016, yes. And before then, I had enjoyed musicals. I had enjoyed Broadway. Musical theater was something interesting. It was my realm because I love singing and stuff like that. But I wasn't a Broadway stan, and I don't think I had appreciated plays and writing and just script writing in general, that I didn't really give it a chance. I think it reads like a very bad fan fiction, but also metacognition. I think that's just because a lot of people who read prose aren't really used to reading things in play form and understanding that. So don't kill me if that's wrong and it doesn't apply to you, but I'm just going to say it because it's true. A lot of people who read prose don't necessarily read plays, and because you don't practice that little part in your brain that knows how to analyze plays, you're going to read a play like you read prose, and it's not the same thing. So that's why I've been meaning to reread it, because I think the plays that I have read since reading this have allowed me to develop some kind of appreciation for staging and just how theater works, and I think I'll enjoy it a lot more. But I stand by the plot being a bit lazy, being a bit fanfiction-y. I don't like the time turner storyline, which is the whole big thing in the storyline. I still think Act 1 is far superior to Act 2, but I don't hate it anymore. I think that my opinions of this just were based on me only reading prose my whole life and only appreciating prose my whole life and knowing that. So I've been meaning to give it a chance. Also, I really want to see it, but it's so expensive because Broadway is like that, and I don't think I'm going to see it, but I heard it's very, very well done, and the production is amazing. In terms of lighting and set design and all that stuff, they won a lot of the Tonys, and I predicted they were going to win it because my friend had seen it in London, and she was telling me about how amazing they did the magic, and just, in terms of being a production, I heard it's amazing. And so, maybe my opinion's not valid because I haven't seen it yet, but I've been meaning to give this a reread, even though it makes me sad to reread all of the lost potential of amazing storylines they could have had in this book, but didn't. But yes, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. So, is this really a true answer? Yeah, so I can't believe I'm so brave. Thank you for sharing your story, Jani. What is a love triangle in a book or series where the main character ended up with the person you did not want them to end up with, or an OTP that you don't like? Personally, I don't remember the last time I read a love triangle. I feel like unintentionally I just like didn't read books that had them. I feel like the last book that I read that had a love triangle was The Hunger Games. And that was like 5th grade, and I'm a senior right now in high school. Oh, I'm in the middle reading the Fountainhead. I'm actually not in the middle. I'm 63% of the way through the Fountainhead. And I think I'm going to be reading the Fountainhead for the rest of my life because it's been taking me like 5 months to read this one book, and I don't know why it's taking me so long. But the Fountainhead has the love triangle between Howard Rourke, Dominique Falcon, and Peter Keating. Yes, it's been so long since I've actually read this. Oh yeah, so you have that love triangle, and I love Rourke. Like, I know you're supposed to, like, that's kind of the point of her whole, like, philosophy thing is, like, Rourke is supposed to be, like, the perfect man in her eyes and her philosophy. But I love Rourke, and I think he's just such a brilliant character, and not necessarily the type of person that you want to be, because I feel like he's a bit of a narcissist, but in terms of his passion, I love Rourke, and I love Dominique, and so I love them together. Like, all their scenes together, I know they're, like, friends with Benedict, like, that type of thing, and they have, like, a sexual relationship, but I love them together, and then when she goes ahead and marries Peter, I'm like, ugh. So I didn't get to the end, but I remember reading this and being like, well, I read this on the train, and I was like, I had to put it down, and I had to be like, are you serious? That, like, why, Dominique, sweetie, like, why would you do that? I hated it, because I love her and Rourke. I think they're perfect for each other, but maybe I'm also just not mature enough to understand why. Okay, I guess I didn't make a offensive post about it, but I was just so annoyed that Dominique married Peter, because I hate Peter. I liked him in the beginning, but I think he kind of his downfall is kind of supposed to represent the downfall of man, especially when your ego is like up here. I think Peter, because he's in love with Dominique, just treated Kathy. Wow, it's been a while since I read this book. I hated the way he treated her and left her in the dust like that because he just wanted a girl to have. And she was just there and allowed it, and I hated Peter. And the fact that Dominique is with him makes me upset. What is a popular book genre that you hardly reach for? I'm going to say fantasy. When I was younger, I loved fantasy because I loved dystopian and Harry Potter especially. Like, I read so much fantasy. But I feel like now, maybe this is just like my literary pretension. It's important to be self-aware and check yourself. But I'm just going to say it anyway. But I think it's just me associating fantasy with my middle school days that I don't want to read it anymore because I feel like I'm not challenging myself as a reader and as like an analytical reader too, because it's just with fantasy, while there are themes to explore, there aren't as many things that you can go to in depth. And I think that's also just me being a product of the IB program and just analyzing everything that I encounter. It's truly such an amazing feeling when you're analyzing a book and it's so good. And I know like some people like just read for the leisure, and unfortunately I don't have that pleasure because IB has corrupted my mind to like analyze everything. But the pleasure and satisfaction that you get when you just have a passage that you're analyzing, it's just like, well, this means this, and this is symbolism, it conducts to this, it's an allusion to this, and it's like the author is deliberately doing this, so you feel this way. Like, it's just, oh, I just love it so much, and it makes me feel so happy. And I feel like fantasy, especially YA fantasy, that's kind of where I was going. YA fantasy just like doesn't give me that, so I never read it. Also, YA fantasy seems to be a lot more in trilogies / series, and recently I just have been not a fan of those. I think I just don't have the attention span for them. I love standalones, and I think standalones are where it's at for me, and it just doesn't really fit what I want as a reader. What is a popular or beloved character that you do not like? My answer to this is Charlie from The Perks of Being a Wallflower. My little disclaimer is, when I read this, I was in 7th grade, so I was 12 at the time, and I don't think I really understood the extent of Charlie's problems, and I don't think I really could relate to him, and so my thoughts at the time were that I was like, Charlie's whiny, and he's annoying, and he just annoyed me the whole time, but I feel like I've grown not only as a reader, but as a person, and also just matured in general. Like, me being 12 and, like, me being 17 now, I feel like now I would relate to him a lot more and understand what he's going through and try to understand why he acts the way he does and why certain things happen, as opposed to just judging him, which is what I did when I was 12. So in my head, I know, like, you will probably not like him anymore. But because I haven't read this since I was 12, my last memory of him is that I didn't like him. But I've been meaning to reread it. I'm reading The Secret History right now, so maybe I'll read this right after. Because it's also short, and I feel like because I'm a senior in high school, I will understand problems and like it a bit more. And yeah, so that's my answer. Who is a popular author that you can't seem to get into? So I guess I have two. Yes, or three. I have three. But two of them I feel like are the same person because the association in my mind. Like I mentioned before, with YA fantasy, especially like trilogies and series, like I can't really get into. So book two, everyone mentions Cassandra Clare, who wrote the Mortal Instrument series, I believe, and Sarah J. Maas, who Throne of Glass, I think. Yeah, so those two, just because I don't read YA fantasy, everyone on BookTube talks about them. I can't even fathom the idea of reading a trilogy right now. Like, in my head, I'm like, I don't know how I could get through 3 books of a genre that I don't like. Like, it's just, I can't do it. But also, Rainbow Roll, I don't know where Eleanor and Park is. I used to have a copy, but don't know where it is. But I loved Eleanor and Park when it came out. Like, I reread that book probably like 5 times. Like, I loved it. But her books since then, so I read Fangirl and Eleanor and Park, and I loved them at the time. I don't know how I'd feel about them now, but I have really good memories associated with them, so I don't want to reread it and ruin that. But her books that came out recently, like the Simon Snow one, I think it's called The Carry On, something like that, and I think she has another one, are just things that I just don't have any desire to read, simply because I associate her books with middle school Jani. And I feel like middle school Jani and high school Jani, in terms of being a reader, we don't really read the same things. And so, I guess that's it. What is a popular trope that you are tired of seeing? So, I'm going to say the romanticization, I can't speak, the romanticization of mental illness in books. While I do believe certain books handle mental health well, I feel like a lot of these, especially YA/new adult books that deal with mental health, have this like overarching tone throughout the whole book of like, I can fix this person, especially because they're associated with romance in general. Like, it's usually like a romantic couple that deals with it, or like like 2 people that like you can fix someone's mental health, which is not true. The 2 big ones that come to my mind are, well, other than like 13 Reasons Why, because that's a whole nother thing, All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. I loved it when I read the book, and I don't want to reread it simply because I don't want to ruin my memories of loving it. But looking back on it now and like hearing a lot of opinions and like book reviews, I do understand the romanticization of mental illness in it. And so there's that. And also Me Before You, I know that also deals with a physical disability, but I think it really pushes in that theme of like, you can fix someone. And even though, spoiler alert, like he still dies in the end, it still has this thing like, oh, she changed his life for the better, even though he wanted to end it like that. And I just hate it, and it's just like not, like I think we're in 2018, we're going into 2019, like I think we should know to deal with mental health better in books. I mean, maybe that's just because I haven't read any mental health books recently, but there's that. What is a movie or TV show adaptation of a book or series that you like more than the books? I'm going to say Simon vs. Homosapiens Agenda by Becky Abertalli. I liked the movie much better than the book, and I think that's just because I read it at the time where I was transitioning out of reading a YA, and I just didn't really vibe with the book in terms of its writing style and plot. It just seemed a very predictable YA to me, which just wasn't my thing at the time, but I love the movie. It just felt more real in the movie. And also, I love Nick Robinson and that whole cast, so there's that. Or to all the boys I've loved before. I had watched the movie and then read the book. Or did I read the book before I watched the movie? I don't remember. I actually don't remember because it's either...
You did.
I did? Oh, yes. Yeah, because I read the book in one day because I wanted to finally watch the movie. And I'm going to say, I think the movie did a really, really good job at synthesizing some of the things, of synthesizing like half of book 2 and book 1 all together. I love Lara Jean. I love these characters, but did they need 3 books? No. Did we need the 3rd book? Was it necessary? No. There were like no conflicts in that 3rd book besides like the whole college thing, but it was definitely just like because they just wanted closure in their lives and the fans just wanted that. Like there was no need for a 3rd book. But am I happy we had it? Yes. But I really, really, really hope we get a 2nd movie simply because I love John Ambrose McLaren. Like, sweetie. I'm so happy Lara Jean ended up with Peter because I wanted to end up with John because he's just so much better than Peter. And so while Lara Jean may be into people like Peter, I'm into guys like John. So I love him and I really, really want a movie version of him. Also, even though Noah Centineo is like a cringy like Jacob Sartorius boy, I think he was such a perfect Peter. Also, I love Lana Condor. Like, just the whole movie, I watched it 7 times within the first, I think, week or week and a half of it coming out because it's just such a feel-good movie. It's like, it makes me fluffy. Also, I'm Asian and seeing an Asian fall in love in a movie just made me happy. And yes, so those are my answers. And there are also 2 movies that came out this year because I don't watch movies. But we've been having a lot of book adaptations recently, so there's that. So those are my answers. I hope you liked this video. Yeah, if you want a bookshelf tour, let me know. I think my next book review is going to be The Secret History. If you want to keep up with my whole reading thing, I have a Goodreads, and I update that as often as I can. So I'm just not going to do outros. Peace.